Hello, happiest of days to each of you folks. I hope you guys are having just an absolutely amazing, awesome day today. One of the best you've ever had in your entire life for you folks, all up and down the blocks too. So today is Serial Saturday. It's the day that I dedicate to reviewing the lost and forgotten movies and stories and from movies and TV serials, oftentimes in the pulp era. And this is 1948 one, and from by Republic. Now I did watch this a couple of weeks ago, but I didn't have the time to review it. And that sort of a thing, just as a heads up, you may not be able. Typically, I would give all of my Saturdays to this, but not necessarily up front. And that sort of a thing too with all of my new stuff and my new job too. So there's no promises, right, that I would be able to continue this. So I did watch this a couple of weeks ago. Just a heads up. All right, so this is. So if you see me looking down, not giving you, I'm reading my notes on my iPhone. I had to add a lock to the phone in order to download and turn on some apps for my job, which means I can't just, So if you see me looking down and being rather than just being able normally just to turn it on with my finger and that sort of a thing too, but like I'm being like having to stop and lock it rather with a key code and that sort of a thing too. That's the reason why. And that sort of a thing too. But here we go. This is my review of The Adventures of Frank and Jesse James from 1948. This is a Republic Pictures. It's in 13 chapters. Weirdly, it doesn't. I don't think the story needs the extra chapter. And that sort of a thing too. But it's about 180 minutes. Now, serials were really influential in their day. I think one of the main reasons why they and that sort of thing too. But a lot of folks just don't know about them that much. So this is directed by Fred C. Brandon for you folks, and Yakim Carrot for you. I'm sorry, not for you folks. And then it's written by Franklin, Adrian, Basil, Dickey, and Sol Shore for you folks too. This is starring a few people, 6 total. It starts off with Clayton Moore as Jesse James, but he has to go incognito, and that's John Howard. And then also Steve Durrell as Frank James, who's Bob Carroll, incognito too. And the other 4 are Noel Neal as Judy Powell, and George Lewis, who's also a very common person. He was a person from Mexico and that sort of a thing too. So he's a legitimate Latino who's playing one of the parts too. You would see him in things like Zorro and that sort of a thing too. He is playing Rafe Hensley for you folks, and then also John Crawford here is starring as Amos Ramsey for you folks, and Sam Flint as Paul Thatcher as the last of those 6 that will star. Now this is a retelling of the James characters, and since they were the protagonists, and this is for kids and that sort of a thing too. The central concept here is that they've been framed, and that sort of a thing too, as the big bats of now they've got to set out and find their freedom, if you will. And that sort of a thing too. So that's sort of the key concept of what's happening. And that sort of thing too. Now I think that is an interesting take, but it's not a very historical one. Actually, if you look online, I did some research. I feel like there are a lot of these concepts that they were framed, or that the James brothers may have robbed from people like Robin Hood to hell a lot of money, and then sort of gave it to the poor folks that needed. Right, and sort of the thing too. None of those things are backed up by historical evidence of that time or today too. So just as a heads up, but this is back in the 40s when this is being written and shot. That's not a recent myth, right, either. Just as a heads up for you folks. But the action scenes are great, but that can kind of feel a little on the weird side of the life. So I'm giving this an 8 out of 10 for you folks, just as a heads up. But there you are. Have you watched this, and what did you think about it? As a reminder, I'm not coming, to you from a place of expertise. So that I didn't go to film school. I don't make films for a living, right? None of that stuff, right? So your mileage is just going to be as valuable as mine, because I'm just a fan like you are, right? I'm that sort of a thing too, who's passionate about trying to find these older things for you and unlock them for you too. There you go. And then also I just want to, and so also, I just really, really enjoy the concepts of serials. Like I said before, I think they sort of kept folks on the map in a major way from the movies. They were sort of the water cooler talk of that time, right? They would be the last thing you would watch going into intermission. In a two-picture film, you wouldn't go to just one film that you chose ahead of time. You would go to a two-picture day, a little longer too, and then you would watch some shorts like cartoons, sometimes trailers too, and then some news serials too, and then the A picture, and then maybe another couple of shorts before serial, and then you would head to intermission. And then that would be what kept people. And then after, in the second half of that, you'd be watching a couple more shorts, and then the B picture, very, very short about today's comparisons of movies. And then after that, you would finish up with another serial, right? And so again, these cliffhangers. How are these people going to survive? I don't know. Let's find out. You would be talking about it in your schools, in your churches, in your works, in your homes, and that sort of a thing too, right? And so everybody would go and watch these, and that's sort of how they kept this stuff relevant, and that sort of a thing too. And so I think it's some good stuff. And obviously, I think that sort of a one story in multiple parts, but still only like 3 hours long, and that's a thing too, right? And so this idea of that modern, a modern sort of a serialized TV changes to like 8 episodes or 10 episodes that are all telling one story again. Can sort of feel padded, and I'm like, why aren't you doing it like they used to do it with a much smaller episodes and that sort of a thing too? And I don't know. And even that felt a little bit padded too. But yeah, you get your, I don't know what happened with that. But there we go for you folks. Alrighty. And so as you can tell from those funding, I also do some older reviews on Wednesday of older video games when I have chances to. And then I also do on Mondays modules and RPGs about tabletop like Dungeons and Dragons or war games like Battletech 2. And then I also try to do for the other 3 days a week, I'll do things out there like video game, like things that you read, like short stories and novels and that sort of poems sometimes do in the 3 genres that we cover all over typically. It's fantasy, science fiction, and horror too for you folks. Hopefully something in there will sound that's like something that's your cup of tea, although no pressure. I don't want you to feel like, oh my gosh, I have to subscribe, I have to hit the bell icon, I got to share it with my friends, right? This is a passion project. I don't make any money off that, right? And that sort of a thing too. So you do you, right? Alright, but there you are for you folks, just check it out. And it's also, as you can tell from finding these older things for you and unpacking them for you too, is definitely the passion, right, of this channel, and finding those things for you is even where its name comes from too. That's the worst thing about new books. That's a quote by a French philosopher, Jean Joubert, who says not the worst thing about them was that they actually kept us from reading the old stuff, right? Not that the new stuff is bad, by default, right? None of that stuff is true, but you get the idea. And our passion for the new diversions of movies and TV games, TV games, that's funny. Video games was supposed to be there too. But TV games actually probably would make some sense too. But yeah, books and that sort of a thing too. All that new stuff we sometimes have forgotten. That these things are standing on the shoulders of giants and heavily influential ones too. So check them out. Alrighty, and there you go. I want to thank you just for taking some time out of your day and investing it, right? And even watching my videos, because we all have so many things that are happening in us, right? And we're even bold in so many different directions too. So the fact that you spent this time with me, that's just incredibly humbling. I appreciate that so very, very much. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.